So like I said, we're going to get started promptly at 9 o'clock. I just wanted to let you know we will be videotaping this and live streaming it out on the web and on cable television. So if everyone could please be on their best behavior, we'd appreciate it. And with that, I'll let you go, but we should be starting in just a few minutes. Thank you all for being here.
Glad to have you here doing this. Matt, you want me? You over here. Right there. Secretary, you're right here. So we'll get you. The secretary's here. The secretary's right here. Even though I just learned the Southern Round, San Luis Valley. How are you? Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you. How are you? I lose my game. Doesn't change too much.
All right.
You already signed up. Yeah, except I got to check because I think when I paid my bill online, it says summer semester. Go check. I'm not in the summer session. After organic chemistry in the summer.
Terry, what's up, stranger? How are you? Good to see you.
Summer class.
Huh? Maybe.
You got a check from me.
This is Randall and Brian from our really close. You doing all right? No, all good. You're doing great. Killing it.
We're getting killed.
Everything good otherwise? That's crazy. Good to see you. How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. I never see you anymore. I know. It's been a while. Oh yeah, we were happy this morning. This is Dr. Really?
A lot of Terry.
Good morning, everyone. If we could go ahead and get seated, we'll get started here. Well, once again, good morning. I'm Randy Grissom. I'm the president of Santa Fe Community College, and we're excited about hosting the summit here today, having the senator, having a deputy secretary, and the mayor, and lots of other officials here. As a community college, Santa Fe Community College has taken a lead in sustainable technologies. Not only do we teach sustainable technologies, but we practice what we teach, and we have made use of many renewable energy technologies. We have a 1.5 megawatt solar array on campus, another almost 172 kilowatts at our higher education center, and luckily our electric bill for the last few months has been a negative $450 or greater, and it's an all-electric 32,000 square foot building, so we're happy to get a check every month. We also heat our campus with biomass in the wintertime, burning wood chips, and have a number of programs. So hopefully many of you, if this is your first time on campus, will get a chance to take a tour later today. But we're extremely excited to have some of our guests here today. I want to recognize a few of our special guests. I think most of them are seated at the front here. We have Dr. Carol Adkins from the Sandia National Labs, which is over here, right? We have Dr. Brian Hannigan from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. We have Dr. Carol Burns from Los Alamos National Lab. We have Councilor and Mayor Pro Tem Peter Ives, who is out here in the audience, from Santa Fe. We have Senator Peter Worth from Santa Fe here. From the USDA, we have Brendan McBride at the panel, and Terry Brennan is in the audience somewhere. I saw him. He's in the back over there, yes. And I know we have Governor Valle from Acoma Pueblo here, and Governor Loretto from Jemez Pueblo here. So we want to welcome all of you here today. It is my honor now to introduce Mayor Javier Gonzalez, the mayor of Santa Fe. He's been a strong supporter of renewable energy and sustainable technologies and has been a great supporter of Santa Fe Community College. In fact, if you listen to the radio here, you'll hear him doing a spot for us, which has been nice to have him do. And he's going to give a welcome and do some other introductions. So, Mayor Gonzalez.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome all of you to this incredible campus, the Santa Fe Community College, and thank Randy and everyone here at the college for being a great host. And when you come onto this campus, hopefully you recognize what we all recognize, that people who spend their time in these classrooms are learning trades, learning critical skill sets that can go out and help us build an economy that's incredibly competitive. And Randy and the full staff here at the community college do it all the time. I want to welcome the honorable governors from Jemez Pueblo and Acoma. Thank you for being here and being a part of this effort, as well as many leaders who've been part of my own climate action task force, who've worked so hard to prepare Santa Fe and to lay out a blueprint for how we can be truly a resilient city, a city that is prepared to engage and to combat the effects of climate change. I want to thank Senator Heinrich, who several months back made a call, and when a senator calls any of us, you worry a little bit about what that call might be about, but that call was about energy. And he said, you know, I'd like to have a conversation in Santa Fe about energy, what's going on and where we can go. And to really have that dialogue be focused on substance and on real action that we can pursue. And so I want to thank Senator Heinrich for not only making that call, but also lending himself to these important conversations. And his leadership in Washington not only is good for New Mexico, but it's good for our country and for others throughout the world. I also want to say thank you to our own Santa Fe resident, Liz, who I have to call her as Liz, not Dr. Randall, because she's a Santa Fe resident. And I learned that when I met her a few weeks back, as she made time to tour this community college and to listen to students and learn from them as to what some of their own challenges and aspirations were. And when you know a little bit about her, and I'll read her resume before I introduce her, this is an individual who packs a very powerful punch, not only in the work that she does for us, but certainly in what she did before she came to Santa Fe. I also want to, or to Washington and Santa Fe. I also want to acknowledge her family who's here with us. Thank you very much, Dr. Randall and gentlemen, for being with us as well. So we're going to have a conversation about energy today, an important conversation. Where we're headed, how we're going to get there, and why it's so important, and how cities like Santa Fe and states like New Mexico can help lead the way. To put it in the most straightforward way, I know changing the way we produce and use energy about dealing with the biggest threat to our life that we've had and that we've faced for generations. Climate change shifts the entire playing field on how we make community decisions. Already, when we're talking about economic development, public infrastructure investments, even school reform, we're doing it through the lens of climate change. And we will succeed or fail in the long term based solely on our ability to deal with these challenges. In Santa Fe, water challenged and in the heart of the fragile desert ecosystem, climate change threatens more than just our way of life. It threatens our community's very existence. So this conversation, more than just taking place in Santa Fe, although we're excited about that, is also extremely important to Santa Fe's future and is a perfect fit with the extensive and aggressive local policy work we're doing to grow more sustainable. Whether it is the Climate Action Task Force, which brought together hundreds of Santa Feans to make recommendations on energy conservation and generation, water, food policy, and more that will help us set short-term goals for action, or the Sustainable Santa Fe Commission, which I have charged with the development of a 25-year sustainability plan that gets our city to carbon neutral by 2040. We are already hard at work trying to answer these questions. I'm also happy to take this opportunity to announce that we are ready to launch a pilot program for the Community Solar Initiative I promised to deliver in my State of the City address. Community solar has incredible potential, and our program is going to focus on delivering renewable energy where its cost savings will have the largest benefit and where it is currently least accessible to Santa Fe's poor and working families. There are two reasons this is important to today's conversation. One, President Obama's administration has recently committed to scaling up community solar projects targeting low-income Americans. And also, Senator Heinrich has introduced legislation, which I'm going to do everything in my power to support, that would require utilities to work with states to deliver community solar projects up to 2 megawatts in size. With 300 days of sunshine, Santa Fe and New Mexico should be leading the way for the rest of the country. Community solar is a proven solution for delivering on that promise, and there has never been a better time to start using the power of the sun to better our lives. Above all, these conversations today among policymakers and the public have to continue because they build precious momentum for a cause that is easily one of the most important tests of our leadership and we will ever face. So we cannot afford to wait. So let's get started. It goes without saying how important Senator Heinrich is to our efforts to pursue energy independence and to have a secure energy future. What I love about Martin is that he, first and foremost, started as a local government official. He understood the importance and the role that local governments could play in forging their own future. And he's taken that with him to Congress, and now he takes it to the U.S. Senate. Martin sits on the Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources, where he's introduced legislation to boost technology transfer and foster collaboration between New Mexico's national laboratories, local businesses, and research institutions. Above all, he's a New Mexican who fights for all of us on a daily basis. Please join me in welcoming Senator Martin Heinrich.
Thank you, Mayor, for your leadership and for your welcome this morning. I think this is a fantastic opportunity, and I want to thank everybody for attending the Santa Fe Energy Summit. Governors Valle and Loretto and Governor Torres, I see now, has joined us. Thank you for participating, and I want to thank Santa Fe Community College President Randy Grissom for making this fantastic facility available to all of us today. I'm excited that Deputy Secretary of Energy, Dr. Elizabeth Sherwood Randall, or Liz as she's known, is here with us today, as well as Administrator Brandon McBride from USDA. Thank you for joining us in the land of enchantment. And I want to thank Terry Bruner. He has done such an incredible job for USDA here in the state and for your participation today as well. I'm grateful for everyone who has gathered here, and I think this is going to be a wonderful opportunity. We're here today to learn from each other and to build the kind of partnerships that allow us to accomplish things, tangible things on the ground. And I think as New Mexicans, we should aim particularly high. With innovation and investment, smart policies and collaboration, we have enormous potential all around us in the state of New Mexico. But we all need to work together to ensure that our potential in New Mexico and our reality finally meet. And that's what this conference is all about. You know, according to the U.S. Solar Market Insight 2014 year in review, New Mexico was 10th in the nation last year for added solar capacity. We added 88 megawatts of solar electric capacity, and that's double what we did just the year before. That's 325 megawatts are enough to power nearly 75,000 homes, and we are just getting started. New Mexico ranks 18th in the nation in installed wind capacity with 812 megawatts, or enough to power another 187,000 homes. We have the resources here, and we obviously have the human capital to be a major producer of clean electrical power, not only for our own state, but for the entire region. And I hope that this summit will foster the public-private partnerships that allow us to drive that forward and to make sure that we're taking full advantages of the opportunities that we have on our sovereign tribal nations as well. Santo Domingo Pueblo recently worked with the Department of Energy to install a ground-mounted solar system that powers its community water system and now saves an estimated 75 to 85% on their electric bill for those facilities, really making a huge difference in their budget there at the Pueblo every year moving forward, and that's something that will be with them for many, many decades to come. In July, the Obama administration announced that Picaros Pueblo will be one of 5 tribes to receive on-the-ground technical support from DOE's START program, and with the help of DOE experts, the Pueblo hopes to develop a solar PV project on its land now. So stories like this can be replicated across Indian country if the right policies are put in place. And one way to do that is to give tribes access to the renewable energy tax incentives that we already have. I have introduced legislation in the Senate to allow tribal enterprises to take advantage of the existing 30% tax credit in the same way that private developers already are able to do on private land across the country. And this is going to be key to creating the kind of energy autonomy that tribes desire and deserve. And we have leaders from many of the Pueblos and representatives from DOE's Office of Energy Policy here to make that progress possible. I hope that through this summit we can connect our neighboring tribal nations to the tools and the resources that will help them to take advantage of their own natural resources and to tap into the economic potential that they have right here in the state of New Mexico. And we're also going to be talking about microgrids. We have some fantastic experts here from our national labs, from the energy industry, from the Microgrid System Laboratory, and the city of Santa Fe. And we're going to be looking to push forward so that we're able to take full advantage of the kind of microgrid possibilities that we're seeing today. Microgrids are really sort of the emerging edge of what's going on in energy today. They're community scaled, they're localized, they're very responsive to on-the-ground, real-world realities where they're in place. They can provide backup power in case of emergencies, and they can also cut costs and promote the use of clean resources and energy in local communities. If you look at one example, Pecan Street over in Austin, Texas, and what they've accomplished there, you realize just how quickly you can make a difference by instituting on-the-ground progress in microgrids. The DOE funded that demonstration project, and it's done some amazing things already. And New Mexico is really well poised to take advantage of moving forward on microgrids. In fact, we see that with the Japan-U.S.-New Mexico Smart Grid Collaborative Demonstration Project up at Los Alamos, where entities from Japan, from Los Alamos Department of Public Utilities, and Randall are cooperating on one of the leading test microgrids in the world today. And at a Smart House site in Los Alamos, demonstration the project is tested with local technology, generation, and storage technologies together. So the Microgrid Systems Lab here in Santa Fe is also a collaborative effort between researchers and developers in the Santa Fe Innovation Park and the Microgrid Education Center here at Santa Fe Community College, developing both the technology and, more importantly, the workforce that's construct decentralized and sustainable grid for the future. I don't think it's going to be long for communities like Santa Fe that are looking proactively to their energy future, are using microgrids to power their facilities and to manage their energy consumption all behind the meter, which is real progress for how we change our energy future. And eventually all of us will be connected to a much smarter, a much cleaner, a multi-directional, and a decentralized grid, a very different grid than the grid that we all grew up with. Finally, we're going to talk about the nexus between energy and water, and our water and energy systems are interdependent. Water is used in nearly all the phases of our traditional fossil fuel energy production, and energy is required to extract and deliver and purify the water that we use And in the state of New Mexico in particular, I think we realize just how precious that water is to sustain life and culture as well as economic development. It's not always as green as it is outside in the state of New Mexico, if you haven't noticed. And we have seen some pretty drastic changes to our climate already. And really cracking this nut of the energy-water nexus, I think is going to be absolutely critical to reaching the kind of aggressive goals that you heard about.
One other issue that I want to bring up is just the potential for the use of storage. We're seeing advancement in energy storage in a rate that is really incredible right now. And while we're going to be at the place in energy storage that we were in solar maybe 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, when we first installed for the voltaics in the house. We're seeing the cost drop precipitously. We're seeing energy density move very rapid rate. We're seeing incredible research being done in international laboratories that's driving that. And I think as we see the private sector embrace energy storage production the way that we've seen for photovoltaics in the last few years, you're going to see prices continue to drop. And you're going to see storage at both the utility state and energy companies rate state. You know, from individuals putting storage behind the meter in their own homes to cities managing storage as part of their electric approach to home utilities and facilities like the wastewater treatment plants. That is going to change things in a very substantial way. It's one of the reasons why I'm pushing legislation to create a national standard for energy storage for industrial utilities to be able to scale that quickly. Because we saw with photovoltaics, it's not just about the research and launching the efficiency change at our national labs and our universities and progress efficiency for solar cells. It's also about the advances that you make once the private sector takes over manufacturing. And we're seeing already with Tesla's announcement that this kind of scale of the factory really differs from making price and efficiency. And that is such a focus. That's going to allow us to solve some problems like next clean energy for a long time. The general public does not know what the dark code is. Many other people in this room know what the dark code is. It's the reality that the sun comes up, the sun comes up at 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. For those of us who are photovoltaics on our roof, our meters are speaking backwards at an incredible rate. But when you really need that clean energy on the grid, when other people come to work, put on their smart cooler, air conditioner, dryer, washing machine, dishwasher. And storage is going to allow us to time shift that all of the day to when they truly need it the most on the grid. That's going to be changing. So we're looking forward to working with you to implement the concrete steps so that the local levels of energy change our energy future can allow us to take the leadership role. So not just saying climate change is a terrible thing that's happening to us. It's absolutely not. We control the leadership to change how we deal with our own energy footprint and make a said earlier that the growth is just instructed me to grow is also the Santa Fe resident. And it just goes to what I love so much about Santa Fe. Not only are we about cultures, we also have a connection to so many talented individuals across Santa Fe that are place important. And Dr. Randall is one of those individuals. She currently serves as the Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Department of Energy. She's been serving in this role as second in command of the Energy Department since October of 2014. She joined the Obama administration on day one, serving from 2009 to 2013 as a special assistant to the President and Senior Director of European Affairs at the National Security Council from 2013 to 2014, and as a White House coordinator for defense policy, countering weapons, and mass destruction and arms control. Before joining President Obama's team, Dr. Randall worked at Stanford University, Harvard University, and at the Council on Foreign Relations. In the Clinton administration, she served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russia, Ukraine, and Georgia from 1994 to 1996. Dr. Randall attended college at Harvard and then went on to graduate school at Oxford University, where she was among the very early ranks of female rights scholars. After finishing her education, she began her career working for then Senator Joe Biden as his chief advisor on foreign and defense policy. Born and raised in California, she is, as I said earlier, married to Dr. Jake Randall, who is a neurosurgeon, and of course, their two teenage boys that are young. I went to Stanford and heard earlier, so I hope that's why you're being to know that I'm going to be great. But please join me in welcoming our own so much, Randall. Good morning, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here. I have to confess that when I heard about this summit, I was still visiting this amazing community college. President Griffin told me about it, and everybody knew that I was scheduled to be there on leave with my family. And I said, I'm not going to do this.
And in the Senate, on all energy issues, specifically on renewable energy, for the tremendous economic opportunity that it presents to the American Southwest and to our nation. It creates jobs and growth, and it also positions us to continue to lead the world in the 21st century. I want to welcome the many tribal governors and tribal officials who have joined us this morning for this event. We will talk a little bit about the opportunities that you heard already about from Senator Heinrich about the partnerships that we've developed with tribal communities in New Mexico and beyond. And of course, I'm thrilled to have been introduced by my new friend Javier Mira Gonzalez, who is also a major force for bringing jobs and growth to this great community. As you heard from him, I do have a long and strong personal connection to this enchanted land. I came here first in the early 1980s, and I actually moved to Santa Fe to write a book here in 1988. I even briefly worked as the editorial page editor at the Santa Fe New Mexican. And in that role, I traveled all over the state, learning about what was happening here and writing about it for the community. At that time, my family bought a home here. It was out a dirt road north of town with beautiful vistas of the Pajarito Plateau. So we have been coming here since then. Our boys have come here every year of their lives. We're Isotopes fans and Chimayo chili lovers. Richard and William learned to hike on the Borrego Trail in the Santa Fe National Forest. We're obsessed with the chicken tacos at El Parasol. We actually, on our drive-in on Monday night, we got in quite late, but we made it just in time for our fix before they closed. And I have to confess to a weakness for the margaritas at Maria's. So as you heard, I've been the Deputy Secretary at DOE for just under a year. And what I learned about immediately was that New Mexico is at the center of just about everything we do at DOE. You're, of course, home to our extraordinary Los Alamos and Sandia National Laboratories, two of the premier research institutions in the world, and part of our network of 17 national laboratories that are such an extraordinary national asset for our nation. Over 19,000 people work at these two labs, And the labs have developed close collaborations with the state of New Mexico and the U.S. Department of Commerce to help nurture and grow small businesses around the labs. Through the New Mexico Small Business Assistance Program, we combine manufacturing knowledge brought by small businesses with the world-class scientific and technological and engineering resources in our labs. And you know that small businesses are major drivers of growth in our economy. This program here in New Mexico has been such a success that we're now piloting a national DOE program based on the approach that we took here in New Mexico. Sandia and Los Alamos are doing scientific research that has provided for American national security for more than 70 years, starting, of course, with the Manhattan Project. Because of these labs, the American president can have confidence that our nuclear deterrent can protect us against the most devastating kinds of threats, and that we also have the capabilities to detect a nuclear test anywhere in the world, and have many ways of detecting nuclear materials, the essential building blocks of nuclear weapons. Indeed, throughout the recent negotiations with Iran, Secretary Moniz called on the deep expertise on nuclear weapons and enrichment technologies at our labs right here in New Mexico. They helped us analyze the various proposals that were under discussion in the negotiations, and as a result of their work, we can be confident that the technical underpinnings of the proposed agreement are rock solid. New Mexico is, as you already know, a huge contributor to our nation's energy resources. In fact, you're the fourth largest supplier of energy in our nation. That makes New Mexico in many ways a microcosm of the wider energy economy and the exciting changes we've seen in recent years, as well as the challenges we face going forward. So today I want to build on this energy leadership position to talk about the future of American energy and some of the challenges ahead. We've seen a tremendous shift in energy just since the beginning of the Obama administration. President Obama made his energy strategy what he called an all-of-the-above strategy, designed to ensure that the United States has diverse and abundant domestic energy supplies. And the results are clear. Domestic energy production is way up, and oil imports are way down. Efficiency is up, and renewable prices are way down, as much as 75% in just those 6 years. Here in New Mexico, the biggest new sources of electrical generation are natural gas, wind, and solar, reflecting a national trend. And overall, energy jobs are growing faster than the wider economy. Indeed, in the solar industry, they are growing 20 times faster than the rest of the economy. You already heard some statistics cited by Senator Heinrich. I'll add that solar capacity here in New Mexico grew by 33% in 2014 alone. And today, 97 solar companies employ over 1,600 New Mexico workers. There's also a second major shift affecting the energy industry, and that is climate change, as you've already heard. Climate change is too real here in New Mexico. We've seen droughts killing full-grown pinon pine trees in the forests of the Jemez. And here in Santa Fe, not right now, where, as you noted, it's much greener than it usually is at this time of year, many homeowners like us have seen beloved trees on our property become vulnerable to pests that infected them and weakened them, leading to their untimely deaths. And across the Southwest, we've seen rivers running dry and much too warm. I'm very glad that you have the energy-water nexus on your agenda today, because this is a very high priority for Secretary Moniz and for me, and because, as you heard, water availability is a big challenge for all of our energy systems. Of course, New Mexico is not alone in facing climate changes. Floods in Texas and wildfires in California foreshadow the conditions and economic challenges that climate change may bring if we allow it to continue. And as President Obama pointed out last week, we're the first generation to feel the effects of climate change and the last that can do something to prevent it. We can reduce our greenhouse gas emissions to keep the problem from growing worse, and we can prepare for the changes that we can no longer prevent. It's very impressive to hear about the work that is already underway in this community to meet this challenge. We took a huge step on lowering emissions last week. The Environmental Protection Agency issued finalized regulations for the Clean Power Plan, which aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from power plants. This is a big deal for our climate and a big deal for human health. Power plants are the largest stationary source of carbon dioxide emissions in the United States, accounting for roughly 1/3 of all domestic greenhouse gas emissions. States can set their own plans and timelines. They have the flexibility to achieve the Clean Power Plan goals on their own path, defined by their own unique conditions. That's the American way. The reductions will start in 2022, or earlier if a state wants, and the final goal must be met in 2030. Here in New Mexico, you get to decide the best way for New Mexico to meet the goals, whether that's through deploying more renewables, achieving greater energy efficiency, improving demand-side management, or refitting existing plants with new technologies like carbon capture and storage. DOE will be working with the National Association of State Energy Officials to provide resources to state officials. For example, modeling and analysis of proposed plans. We're the solutions people. States will also have access to our headquarters and lab technical experts, and to workshops and opportunities for technical assistance funding. Of course, any major shift in the economy will mean changes to the lives of workers, and DOE has been working with labor leaders and local communities to help make this transition easier for workers and for those who live in these communities. Just last month, I spoke at the Utility Workers Union of America's National Constitutional Convention about the administration's approach to helping workers make this transition. A multi-agency initiative called the Power Plus Plan will bring a coordinated approach to delivering federal resources to communities and workers impacted by the shutdown of coal mines and power plants. The Power Plus Plan is backed by an initial $50 million investment and will be followed up with more funding in the President's 2016 budget request, which is now before Congress. DOE is also working to help Native American and tribal communities meet the challenges of climate change and benefit from expanding renewable energy. And as I noted, I'm so happy there are so many tribal leaders here with us today. This is obviously of huge importance to this state. Since 1996, the department has teamed up to support each year the Santa Fe Indian School and the Pueblo nations around Los Alamos and other New Mexico tribes to build a science curriculum based on the real-life circumstances of a sponsoring Pueblo. For example, students have helped Santa Clara Pueblo monitor erosion and sedimentation after the devastating Cerro Grande fire in 2000, and concerns about legacy waste from the lab. Students assisted Pueblo environmental staff in gathering surface water and soil samples in addition to producing a photo survey, mapping burned areas and recording observations of which species grew back in those burn areas. We've also helped to fund a 30-megawatt solar development with the Navajo Nation near Albuquerque, and we've helped the Ute Mountain Tribe and the Pueblo of Zia fund feasibility studies for renewable energy on their lands. Since the Zia symbol for the sun is the emblem of all our state flags here, it seems especially fitting that we're working together to harness its energy. This year, as you have already heard from Senator Heinrich, DOE awarded technical assistance through our START program to the Picuris Pueblo for a 1-megawatt solar photovoltaic development. Later this year, a team from our National Renewable Energy Laboratory in Colorado, from whom we have a representative here today, and David Conrad from our headquarters Indian Energy Office will visit the Picuris Pueblo to help with the initial stages of their solar project. And DOE is doing similar work with tribes from across the nation. If you'd like to hear more about the opportunities for financial and technical assistance for tribes, or share your input with the department, I want to extend an invitation to you to attend the Tribal Energy Summit that we are hosting in Washington, D.C. on September 24th and 25th. For more information about the summit, you can email us at tribalenergy@ncsl.org, or my colleague Katie Clarkin, raise your hand, Katie, is in the audience today, and she'll be glad to meet with you and take your card so that we can be sure to follow up with you. Now, I've set the scene for what we're doing here. we have a big increase in energy production. We're experiencing more extreme weather and expect more extreme weather, and we're helping communities shift toward cleaner energy sources. In light of all these factors, in 2014, President Obama tasked us to review the nation's energy infrastructure. He requested a quadrennial energy review, or what we now call the QER. DOE was the central point of production of this multi-agency project, with Sandia National Lab contributing important analysis. It was published in April. The QER is a fantastic resource. It describes in detail the challenges I've mentioned today, and it lays out a roadmap for strengthening our energy infrastructures. You can download it at our website at www.doe.gov. New Mexico institutions will have leading roles to play in implementing the QER's recommendations. For example, the QER recommends using microgrids as a way of increasing the resilience of our electric grid, something that Senator Heinrich has already spoken about. Sandia National Lab is already designing a microgrid for New Jersey's transportation system, and you'll hear more about that during the discussion later today. Sandia and Los Alamos will also have a leading role in modernizing the wider electric grid and defending it from cyber attacks. This is something that I've made a priority for my time as Deputy Secretary, as the vulnerability of our grid is rising and we need to develop innovative solutions to make it both stronger and more resilient against natural, physical, and cyber attacks. In one current project, Sandia is partnering with the private sector here in New Mexico to develop a commercial solution that prevents tampering with the kinds of field devices you see attached to utility poles. Because these systems are out in the open, they can be an inviting target for hackers and for attackers, especially as new systems often offer more options for remote operation. As a partner in the Padlock Security Gateway project, Sandia helped invent a way for these new systems to sense physical tampering and let signal operators know that something is wrong. One QER recommendation is to establish a collaborative process to develop and pursue legal, regulatory, and policy roadmaps for harmonizing regulations across North American borders. This would be done in partnership with universities, qualified not-for-profits, and relevant U.S. energy regulatory authorities. We would compare and identify gaps, best practices, and inconsistencies between state, local, and national energy regulations in the United States, Canada, and Mexico, where we have such interdependencies. As a first step to move forward in this recommendation, we intend to hold a series of workshops in partnership with universities, such as right here at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, on topics such as electricity regulatory harmonization between the United States and Mexico. Each workshop will be accompanied by a background paper and relevant topics, as well as a report that summarizes the main takeaways of the workshop for the benefit of the community. And because the QER recognizes that states play an indispensable role in meeting infrastructure challenges, DOE will be working with states to enhance electricity reliability. State planning grants will help New Mexico and other states modernize and accommodate changes in both generation and usage. So in all the areas I've talked about, on energy production, on clean energy, on resilience, and on infrastructure modernization, DOE's role, as I noted, is to bring solutions to the table. National labs like Los Alamos and Sandia are inventing better energy technologies and making existing ones cheaper. Our partnerships and training programs are helping students and workers join the clean energy workforce. And our grants and experts are helping communities achieve their goals and build more reliable infrastructure here in New Mexico as well as across the nation. This is a tremendously dynamic moment for our country in the history of energy. And I'm very glad that I could be with you today to talk about the opportunities that it presents for our communities here in New Mexico. Your insight and your input will help shape the future of this beautiful state and the people who are fortunate enough to call it home. Thank you again, Senator Heinrich, for having the vision to host this summit, and to Mayor Gonzalez and President Grissom for hosting us here today on this campus. It's terrific to be with all of you, and I look forward to our conversation.
I think what we're going to do real quick is remove the podium. Is that right? Is this going to be moved? And then we're going to set up a couple of chairs and have a few question and answer sessions with Dr. Sherwood Randall and Senator Heinrich. I want to acknowledge Matt Miller, who is here from Senator Udall's office. Hey, Matt, welcome. And also Patrick Duran from Representative Ben Ray Lujan's office. There he is. Thank you for being here. All right. And then real quick, I guess we can go over where the room locations are going to be. Do we know the Energy Water meeting will be in which room? This room. The meeting on the microgrid will be room 216, which is going to be out this way. And the tribal energy meeting will be 2 rooms down. So unless this is a room for the water energy conversation, the rest are out to the right. So we're going to get a couple of chairs up here and have a couple of, we're going to put Liz and Martin in the hot seat. Tribal energy will be in room 218. A lot of the Santa Feans have referred to me often as a Hispanic Oprah, getting to moderate many of these conversations. You guys remember the Robert Redford interview? I kind of had to go through it. Yeah, I mean, I own it. I do the best I can. So let's see, is Martin around? He's okay. Well, we can get started. So there's an important question that I need to ask you, Liz, and it's important to everyone here in Santa Fe and throughout New Mexico. Red or green?
Easy, red.
Red. Very good.
And I bring it home with me whenever I come back here. I go to the farmer's market. I buy the dried Chimayo red from the lovely lady who brings it down from her home, and we use it for everything we make until I get back here again.
So I asked you this question for those of you that were at the Robert Redford interview at the Lunzik. I asked Robert, red or green, and he thought, I mean, he was so involved in the questions that he thought it was a political question. So he gave me this blank stare, and it was like, and I said chili, and he's like, oh, okay. I thought you meant the politics. So when we wait for Senator Heinrich, one of the things that I know we spoke about while you were visiting is the role that the national laboratories can play in either economic development or supporting local governments in their efforts to achieve some type of efforts within the energy environment. Can you share with us just how much they can actually do to help local governments achieve some of our goals?
Yes, I'm so happy to do that. Secretary Moniz often talks about something he calls the innovation chain, where the labs have the opportunity to do cutting-edge research in science and technology, and then that gets deployed. First phase of deployment can be a very tough phase where it's hard to find investment support. We have a number of programs at DOE that enable us to provide that seed money for our work to be moved from the lab out into the community for a test phase. And then we look to see if it can be scaled. So it's to development and deployment where it can become more cost effective and available to a broader community. The solar industry is a good example of that. We have put a very high priority working with Sandia and with Los Alamos on building community partnerships, particularly, as I noted, with small businesses, which are driving so much opportunity in our economy, and to ensure that the labs have extended an open hand and make themselves accessible. We have a new technology transitions office located at our headquarters, which is focused on ensuring that the labs are pursuing this objective at the Secretary's direction. And when I was at Sandia earlier this summer, I was able to see the results of that in the terrific park that has grown up with support from the Department of Commerce and DOE, where technologies have been spun off into New Mexico businesses. You and I talked about doing more of that for Santa Fe, because Santa Fe is right in between the two labs, but it's not in the immediate neighborhood, so we need to extend that arm with the hand on it a little farther. And then, of course, Los Alamos up north is working as well with its community, and we have a representative here today from Los Alamos. So I would say, if you are interested in becoming involved in this kind of partnership to develop and deploy the technologies that are being researched in our labs, please be in touch with our labs. They have set themselves up to be open for that business, and we fully support it. It's very important for our economy and for our nation.
Senator Heinrich, you've been such a strong proponent and user of solar technology. And one of the things that we think about a lot here in Santa Fe as we develop strategies to solarize more homes is the 30% tax credit, and the worry that if it is not extended, what that does to the industry and the opportunities for low and middle income homeowners to be able to solarize their rooftops. Can you share with us a little bit about your perspective on whether there will be an extension or what might happen and how we prepare for ultimately whatever might happen?
Well, I think the most important thing right now for the solar industry is to be able to plan on a reasonable time horizon. And we are pushing hard to extend that tax credit. But we've had this approach historically with a lot of the tax credits and tax benefits that has been kind of a year-by-year approach. And I think we need to get to a smarter place where, irrespective of what the levels of those incentives are, that we're able to plan over a 10-year horizon. That's really critical for our business partners, for the people who are making this happen on the ground. And you know, solar costs are coming down at such an incredible rate. And we still have a lot of opportunity there, especially in terms of soft costs, which are the costs associated with connecting to the grid, with being permitted through a city or a county. We can still bring those costs down substantially, and we're seeing the costs, obviously, and the efficiency go up and the costs go down. So I think we can get to a place in the very near future, and we're probably there today, where if you took all the subsidies away from other energy sources, renewables can compete with anything. So if we can bridge that gap with the investment tax credit, which we're working very hard to include in the negotiations over tax extenders and the energy packages that are moving in the House and Senate right now, and create some certainty over a time horizon, we can get to a place where renewables are actually producing clean energy for less money, or more affordable for low and middle income folks, and where we're seeing them deployed on both a utility scale and then also a residential distributed scale.
So for the sane and rational people, that makes a lot of sense, but your many colleagues that
I work in
Washington. So what are the chances, though, that, I mean, what are you hearing from maybe the other side on a willingness to look at that type of strategy?
I think we're at a place right now where both sides want different things, but they really want progress on the things that are important to them. And I think there is a very real possibility of a package deal that won't make everybody completely happy on either side, but where both sides get enough of what they want that we can make substantial incremental progress and get an extension of the incentives for solar.
Yeah, please.
So there is something we can be doing here in this state. On community solar projects, a number of states have made significant progress toward wider adoption. California, Massachusetts, Vermont, and even Minnesota, where I don't think of there being so much sun.
Colorado.
But what's consistent across those states is that they have enabling legislation. And that is the best way to overcome barriers to adoption. So one of the things that could be done here is to pursue enabling legislation, which will allow communities to partner with utilities to find the best way forward. So it's something, Washington can be frustrating and far away, but there are things we can be doing.
So we in New Mexico, unfortunately, don't necessarily have yet at this point a majority in the legislature that would allow us to drive for that type of enabling legislation that's critical to deliver community solar. So what I spoke about today in this pilot project is the city being a little bit sneaky, crafty, creative, basically taking the solar projects that Mayor Koss had tremendous leadership in and taking the economic benefit that we're already receiving in those projects and shifting them to low-income individuals directly. So it's kind of around the utility effort to make sure that an economic benefit that we're receiving from solar is going to low-income people. But what we've noted, and I know Senator Worth has always been a champion for this effort in pushing for community solar, is that, you know, the forces that be, the regulated utility that's highly invested in coal, and needs the ratepayers that are focused on paying for that coal, it's not in their best interest to see some of it go forward. So we have to stay pushing for that. But you're right, other states are leading. They're showing us the power of what can happen, not only in addressing their own climate initiatives, but in the job creation that takes place because of the community solar that exists.
We have something called the National Community Solar Partnership at DOE that's open to new partners, and we would welcome the city of Santa Fe participating in it. We'll try to give you more tools. I think Taos is also doing some of this and has generated enough power, as I understand it, to avoid 600,000 pounds of CO2 emissions just in its Taos Charter School project.
I think one of the advantages you have as a city is that there are some creative ways that you can implement things even when the legislative framework hasn't been fully put in place yet. And we're really lucky in the state of New Mexico. We are where we are today because of the leadership of people like Senator Worth and the things that were done under the Richardson administration as well to implement a renewable energy transmission authority and some of those things that were very far ahead of the curve. But you have the ability, because you have such large sort of semi-industrial presence, things like wastewater treatment plants and the like, that you can do things behind the meter that the average consumer doesn't necessarily have available to them, and show real leadership, and then, as you said, capture the savings and the dollars from that and reinvest it in more progress. And I think that's why we look to cities for leadership, is because they're able to demonstrate those kinds of progress.
One of the things that's on the minds of many people is what's been in the news is lately is the president's negotiations with Iran. Liz, you were here. I remember you saying that that Secretary Moniz was on his way back while you were visiting the college from these discussions. I'd like to ask both of you, and start with Senator Heinrich. You've come out in favor of what the president has proposed. Tell us a little bit why, and then Liz, I know that the New Mexico's labs played a key role in some of those discussions. Share, if you can, after Senator Heinrich speaks, share with us, you know, the role that the New Mexico laboratories played in this very important agreement that was struck. Senator?
You know, one of the things that I realized very early after being elected to Congress back in 2008 is that people are incredibly gifted on the Potomac in the Washington region in talking about things in a way that has no bearing on reality, and that, you know, sort of arguing that up is down and left is right. And, you know, one of the things I had the benefit of is the transparency that comes from sitting on the Intelligence Committee and getting those briefings, having the history with the national labs, and in particular what they do in terms of not only weapons modernization and sustainment and all of those activities, but also anti-proliferation work. And then I had the opportunity to sit and have dinner with the Deputy Secretary and Secretary Moniz during the negotiations, and have a sense for where things were going to, where they were going, and hopefully where we might land and what some of those milestones are. And so the day the agreement came out, I just sat down and I started highlighting numbers to get a sense for where everything landed. And some of the important numbers to me were seeing their stockpile reduced by 98%. That's critical, because today with Iran has enough nuclear material to make 10 to 12 nuclear devices. That is a very dangerous situation today. And when you reduce that stockpile by 98%, which is something that's very, very difficult to hide, enriched uranium in particular is something that our labs are very good at understanding where to see the telltale signs of. That makes everybody dramatically safer. A stockpile that's small enough that you can't even create a single nuclear device. Enrichment levels that go from 20%, Iran was in a position where it had 20% highly enriched uranium, and it's important to realize it takes a long time to go from 3 or 4% to 20%. It takes a very short time to go from 20% to weapons level enrichment. And so dialing that back from 20% to 3.67% is incredibly important as well. Being able to completely take off the map the plutonium pathway that the Iraq reactor represents is a huge step forward in taking one complete pathway completely off the table, re-engineering that reactor in a way that will make it impossible for them to pursue the plutonium pathway. So these are some of the things that I think make an enormous difference, and I would encourage people to, there are places on the web in particular where you can get past some of the talking points and you can get down to the numbers that really support this agreement, and that, you know, just speaking as a father, make me feel better about the security of our country and the world post-agreement compared to where we are today.
Dr. Sherwood Randall, one of the reasons why the agreement is holding up so strong and why it's hard to attack it from a political standpoint is because Secretary Moniz and the number of scientists that have stood up and said this is good for us, this is the right thing to do. How did Los Alamos and Sandia participate in all of this?
First of all, I just have to thank you, Senator Heinrich. That was such a clear and compelling explanation. Can we put you on the road beyond this state for the remainder of your holiday? Thank you.
No, I look forward to continuing this conversation and being an advocate. This is one of the most important things I think I've dealt with in my career. So
it is
your work on it.
It is. If you believe, there are two major threats I believe we face. As a planet, as human beings on this planet, we face the threat of weapons of mass destruction proliferation, the Iranian program being example number one, and we face the threat of climate change. Those are both existential threats. And this opportunity to reverse the direction of the Iranian program, as you said, it's on the precipice of being capable of achieving a deterrent, that Iran would have a deterrent against an attack, a nuclear deterrent, to set it back in the way that it is set back by this agreement is historic for all of us, and that's why we have support of our international partners, and not just the United States, the Europeans, the Russians, and the Chinese, who have their own interests and agenda, but they recognize this. So I just want to thank you. On the human side of the negotiations, I'll tell you a story about how our labs worked with our Secretary of Energy. So Secretary Moniz is a nuclear physicist. He spent 40 years at MIT teaching nuclear physics. And he has a prodigious intellect. And he was the person the president relied upon to say whether the proposals on the table were proposals that advanced American national security interests. And the way he did that was he brought the scientists from Los Alamos and from Sandia and from Livermore and other labs, Oak Ridge is another, and he brought them around his conference table, and he asked them to present their analysis, and then he challenged their assumptions, and he did the math in his head, literally. I watched him do it. It was a breathtaking thing to see someone with that kind of capability to really work it out like a physical workout, but intellectually, to push them hard on all of their assumptions, to ensure that we were being conservative in our assumptions, so that there was a margin, and so that he could go to the president at the National Security Council meetings and say, Mr. President, we can stand on this proposal for the conversion of the Iraq reactor, the plutonium path. We can stand on this proposal with regard to the number of centrifuges, with regard to the enrichment levels, with regard to the amount that they retain, just as you said. So we are very fortunate at this moment in our national history to have a Secretary of Energy of this capability and to benefit from this national treasure of our laboratory resources.
Very good. Well, it's 10 after 10, and one of the reasons, Senator Heinrich, that you wanted this meeting is so that people could actually break out into areas and have critical conversations that hopefully will lead to some action. So we're going to have to cut this portion a little bit shorter, although I know we'd all love to stay talking to you guys for the next couple of hours. But the great thing for all of us is Martin's our senator, and Liz is a Santa Fe resident. So it's not like they're so far away from all of us that we can't capture them in conversation. I just want to say on behalf of the city of Santa Fe and all the citizens, thank you for your leadership, for staying engaged with our community. What's great, Martin, is that you were a city official, so you get it. You know that there is power at the local level to really set a course and to, as you said earlier, to think big and to be bold and not be afraid to challenge traditional parameters that local government operate in. So that certainly has given me a good boost to think that way, so we appreciate it. And of course, Dr. Sherwood-Randall, your presence, just again because of your background, the role that you play for our country, and the fact that you know about parasol and chicken tacos and red is your favorite chili, just I think it just makes certainly all of us feel really, really privileged that Santa Fe is considered part of your home. So thank you both very much, and we're going to move on to the breakout sessions, and we appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
let's go to questions so we can use them to fuel the discussion. The next speaker is John Stowe. He is the Chief Operating Officer and Dr. Stowe has been working with the and innovation in terms of designing renewable energy and government systems. Really exciting.
Thank you for the introduction. You wasted all the minutes from 2 First, I want to mention that Heinrich, a lot of people don't know this, but Heinrich actually was the city councilor and was the chairman of our Randall board for 7 years. Was very instrumental in making the transition from groundwater to surface water and was a leader in that. And he continues to be a leader today. So I want to thank him. After 9 years, personally and professionally. The adequate water utility, if you go to the next slide, please. This is kind of showing the portfolio of our demands. The demands have changed as we transition from groundwater to surface water. Our demands went up overall because our surface water plant went online and now you can just pick up power 24 hours a day. Just like our wastewater plant, if you look at the pie chart there on the right, you can see that groundwater makes up about 50% of our usage of the water treatment plant and the raw water diversion, about 25% of the wastewater plants, about 25%. So we're still using a lot of power to pump the water out of the ground, but that's changed significantly over time. And when we developed this transition to surface water 20 years ago, when it thought about this, climate change was not really part of the discussion, or was energy and carbon footprint. And as we transition now, we are now beginning the process of looking at a water supply. We started that process just recently with our technical customer advisory committee, and we're starting the transition to the global climate technology. We're looking at the potential impacts of that on our supplies, and also for the energy challenge, what is our carbon footprint, and how do we transition to be more renewable to the extent that we have that capability to do that. So as a utility provider, it takes a lot of power to make clean water and to drink wastewater. We use about 166 million kilowatt hours per year. We've also been in the energy business for a while. We've been treating biogas or wastewater plant and generating energy about 1.6 megawatts. We've been doing that for about 15 years. We're now looking at trying to increase that production and maximizing the amount of gas that actually comes out of our digester, and we're looking at ways to do that. We have a natural gas units that also produce energy in our plant, up to about 2 megawatts. We also have a 1 megawatt solar facility at our wastewater plant. So our wastewater plant itself is sort of off the grid, so to speak, and we do use a lot of renewables there. We are now looking at renewables at many sites, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But as we approach the climate change scenarios, we begin to think about diversifying our portfolio of water resources, because that's what municipalities are going to have to do in the future, particularly in the Southwest. We can't rely on one particular supply for our demands. We're going to have to diversify and have a number of different supplies that are going to have to plug in and fill in gaps over those energy plants. And that's various gaps that we require for energy consumption. For example, brackish water will have a high energy needs, for example. So go to the next slide. As I talked about, we're looking at additional cogeneration and biogas in the wastewater plant right now. We're looking at adding fat oils and greases and generating and down local restaurants for manufacturing and increasing our gas production. We think we can increase our gas production about 40% by just adding more fuel. So we're looking at that right now and studying whether or not that's going to be effective. If you go to the next slide. We also have a solar plant that I spoke about. We're moving towards building a 2 megawatt solar facility in our water plant. That will help us in the transition during the peak periods to help save us electricity and money during those peak periods. And we're also looking at solar for the entire water authority as a whole. Groundwater wells are dispersed all over the city, so it's very difficult to have a solar facility right next to a well or a pump station, for example, but we are looking at that. And also looking at all of our buildings for our facilities. One interesting aspect of our water business is because Albuquerque, we serve our customers by gravity. We also can use gravity to generate hydropower. We have a number of different areas use the power privilege from the Bureau of Reclamation to generate hydropower coming out of agriculture and example tunnel projects in the Dredge down in the Rio Reservoir. So hydropower may be a really important part of our portfolio in the future, in addition to solar and biomass. So we're going to be diversifying our energy requirements. Well, I guess the is the research design So, just real briefly, I wanted to start off by, we talk a lot about the need for energy storage, and I want to talk a little bit why that is necessary. So, on the right side there, it's hard to see everything. It's just a general view of the energy and water relationships in our society, how we gather water, top reservoir, and benefit down the river. There's energy conservation. We also draw a lot of water. Fireplace for cooling, also for drinking, and we may send water back to the energy requirements. All this takes a tremendous amount of energy, and it varies throughout the day. So on the next slide, we have a graph which is illustrated with some of what the speakers were talking about this morning. During the early part of the day, if you follow the blue line, there, that's the need of our energy storage throughout the day. It's very low, and it climbs in the afternoon to the peaks. And then it starts dropping again. And that's having those large changes is not having equipment in terms of messaging in the ground quicker. And also at that peaking time, there's a tremendous amount of everyone else is also needing the energy and the cooling water at that time. So there's a lot of demand on the resources. Taking the emissions, and it's a thing. But energy storage allows you to do is to place, is to help level that out. I think someone needs to remember is that electricity itself cannot be stored directly. It's moving electrons, and the electricity right now that we're using in the room is pretty much essentially generated right now. If we want to capture that electricity that, for instance, we're generating outside right now and accelerate, we need to convert it into another form and hold it, potential energy form, either chemical energy, gravitational energy, or heat, or rotational energy, and then hold it. And then when we need it, we can release it. So that's very important to remember. Electricity can't be stored directly. So energy storage has an efficiency associated with it. 70%, 80% coming from the system that you're talking, because the energy conversion process isn't 100%. So what we're going to apply energy storage is that if we're operating plants at a higher level than we need in the mornings, we can store the energy in that body area, and then we can dispose of that in the afternoon. So that can either come from regular generation or from renewables. So energy storage doesn't care about what feeds into it. It can be used. It can use all forms of energy to make it more efficient. That's right. So what Heinrich wanted, what I'm studying, is what I call modular pump hydro. This is a scaled-down version of conventional pump hydro. So instead of having massive 1,000 acre-feet of acres of water, we're scaling it down to 10 acre and over a couple hundred feet of elevation pad. This allows integration directly into communities, such as Santa Fe and Albuquerque, and it's interesting to be down here and talk to them about applications. This allows us to use existing infrastructure as much as possible to put them down costs, and at the same time provide this without having to transmission lines, because you're instead of signing this technology right where you need it in a way for where you don't want it. So the general thing is that you have a water reservoir, which could be a river or a wastewater treatment plant, for instance, and you have an optimism for it. And I took those designs there, just for illustrative purposes, one is more efficient than the other. The one on the right, there is a section on the where it's easier to build, that is the most efficient design. The capabilities that these plants offer is that provided in addition to the energy storage, which like the extract capability, which means that there's that's more energy in the grid, they can use this grid to provide energy, emergency backup. It's very quick responding. And the energy storage plant, unlike production, goes both ways. It can absorb energy from the grid and give it back to the grid. And that is full life cycle of economics needs to be evaluated in order to make analysis of weapons comparison. And so there's a couple cases that I've been doing. I've been doing a lot of pro bono work and also recently getting some funding to do this. We work with Santa Fe Community College, so we can see if we can apply this technique at the college. So we have a radio that's, conformed with the project designs that we have made out. We're looking at small reservoirs, 60 to 150 acre feet. Elevation change is about 165 feet. So, and we have some existing infrastructure that's really useful. The solar panels, for instance, we have 2 water treatment, wastewater treatment plants. So not just the water over the plants are being built in some cases, so that was very useful. The study concluded that it would be possible to put the energy storage, this type of module container on the campus. It's not cheap. It was about $100,000 a year for the campus, above the additional $75,000 to $7,000 you're saving in their solar directly right now. But it's expensive at $3 to $5 million to consist of system. We also looked at a study with the village of China to the reason for doing the study was to eliminate the unpaid surcharges for the community college. We have extra most of the gas bills and electricity. When you just put in the solar, you still get 2 peaks, and you still get charged by PNM. It's not because they're trying to be mean, it's because they have to provide renewable energy. So, with the village of China, it was a little different. We're just trying to increase the renewable penetration for the small community up north. And by sizing, originally, we're revamping the wastewater treatment facility, and the thought was we could incorporate this in, since there was a plan, we can incorporate that in. Unfortunately, the water treatment facility is located in the flat areas, so first to look at other areas. But it is possible to put in a small capacity system that would basically allow them to use solar at night, which is not possible directly. You have to store that as a stroke. Looking at other studies, I think the Breakout project don't follow the water in Santa Fe. I think there's opportunity there to do energy storage. There are existing infrastructure to be rolled out quickly. I've looked at the study for the wind farm out of Brown, turning that wind farm into a eco power plant type of story. We can do this. The technology is there. We don't need a research program. We just need to validate it. And that's what's exciting to me as an engineer, is that I don't need to go into the lab and prove this technology. It's here. It's just a matter of getting it out to the stakeholders and integrating everything. And this is a great thing. Thank you. issue with the price of battle is that when you get the price of battle, you can't rematch the numbers. I just think when it comes to trivializing the multiple days of the numbers for Senator Heinrich and Joseph Williams, this is the project of markets. But there's a bit part of the mindset of gas and solar, wind and grid combination. What about wind and solar and hydro storage? Do you think that would be a time myself? It's something that has an opportunity to do that. It's all about costs. And that's where, when you do the cost, think just look at the upfront capital costs alone, maybe when you have to look at the full life cycle costs, and what your providing the capability, and with the low operating cost of the hydro over a time period of 40 years, and that's what these plants are designed for. They're designed for 30 or 50 years, which is, when you think about it, is pretty incredible. But that's where I would like to go. And that's why I was going to be like empathy, adaptability, maintainability, and just work for costs. Economic society. Being able to show the system that I described that I can maintain the gravity because I do gas walls, so I line the reservoirs, and I cover them so that we control the evaporation in the seepage, and we collect the rainwater so that the net usage of water is actually zero. I also have the water quality that I can use in the system. It goes the full range from seawater to brackish water. And we have a lot of brackish water in the state, and that's a use. And obviously, they're using it for water treatment, which actually helps take the water and I can treat it. So I really see that as synergy. It's getting over that cost, but being able to demonstrate that we can, the benefits are, and it's not just comparables, it's reduced water usage. Advertising that over the long term and recognizing what that can be done. One thing I just want to ask Nick is the Mayor and Dallas talked about the community soul behind the leaders, the bank, with the way they committed. So is there anything you can tell us about that? I don't really, as a player. If you're working, able to replicate the cost of the equity division is just enormously more expensive than all the other sources. Energy-wise, is that correct? Yes, that's the sense. Situation, even though just in a normal situation, the big thing is seen as a safety valve to compensate for any fall-off. So all that really works, and there's a little stress for that. 10 or 15 or maybe 20 years ago, several times the more than $10 and that, but below 70 cents a lot. Two effects. And then we have one effect that's as these became legislated to be favorable, industry ramped up to manufacture single-family homes. That made them cheaper, more desirable. We had no protective legislation until now. This sort of energy generation, as well as wind, which roughly the same cycle, pretty much more or less like fossil fuels. We have two more pieces of technology on the table now to complete the unlimited penetration of renewables into the economic grid. But those are liquidation of the grid itself, for instance, the grid, and energy storage in one form or another. That was started connecting the development of the grid technology and energy storage technology with legislation so that we get them ready to start completely competitive with fossil fuel generation, which looks plausible from your numbers and it looks plausible from other people's numbers. Let me just throw that out to you. I think the ability to go to distributed generation and distributed smart networks that makes each one way to really quality of the electric grid that uses multiple nodes and networks that are different. The application uses on the storage side, the biggest problem I'm seeing with the dynamic storage is that same idea as the manufacturability of the storage system and about energy storage. This is what people like to know about the manufacturing of the batteries today. It's not at the level that provides the sensible liability for so there needs to be a major effort in improving battery manufacturing to get the benefits of the storage. And we're having tremendous problems with reliability batteries right now, all failing because of inconsistencies in manufacturing. Critics that can't be started to the market. That's an approach. That's a good thing to us. And then I think we're going to be able to do this a lot more. So I think the question would be behind the question is to make this work out. Anything else I would offer is the city of Denver partnered with Keynote for several years. We are partnering with planners the last time we were showing things that we can read, but it can be flexible. But, I will not public services is 47% of the city of Santa Fe government's energy industry. The degree you want to be flexible. In my case, with the pump hydro, one of the areas that I solar systems on pipeline to were really helpful is a permitting process that doesn't take 10 years. So go to a bank and say, it's really great efficient process, but it won't give you any revenue for 10 years. Don't just open the door and turn it off. I mean, that's not something. You need this to happen in guaranteed years. And quite frankly, I don't see why there's no physical reason why in these smaller systems that integrate into the level So from an asset management perspective, your occupier makes great sense to us. It's a long-term cost if we're going to be here. Whether we call it Albuquerque, Barlow, County Water Utility Authority, or something else in the future, we're going to be here. The community's going to be water, wastewater, and that's always going to have high energy needs. We need to be planning for these long-term things, whether it's water supply or energy from a big picture. What happens next week?
My name's Karen Oppenheimer. I am a lawyer, so you got somebody in the room at least. I'm a Senator forward, and I have, I guess, a question for Nick, and then two questions. One, does the city have plans to summarize any more of the water facilities that are owned by the city? And then a related question, are there any assessments by any of the panelists about the value and whether these are good jobs, whether these are more better paying jobs and with greater career opportunities than the jobs available in the more traditional non-alternative energy sectors?
So, Texan has 300 kWs looking to put at booster 4 together, just like a line between the river and time. And we're looking at other locations. So the plan is to continue to put in more in the future. So right now, as I see, it's causing a lot of people in the field that there's no gas necessarily on all that. So, what I just want to emphasize, personally, it also goes to go for jobs over time. What I say the lobby is doing is to, over the long term, snap it out. So it's you're not going to get these spikes and valleys. You're going to have close. And that is value, I believe, for the community. Because if you're not having to plan for we're going to have, we have Christmas, if you go to Christmas this year, next year maybe better, and you know what, if it's close to, that's good for that type of business. So, I'm talking about one of the issues we have is the mismatch between the supply and demand, and that's where storage comes in. Sometimes the another thing we have there is water utilities are large industrial users who may have some flexibility to change their demand curve. So, historically, we have tried to put more at night because energy is cheap. Now, that might be, we might have not paid to think that and put more during the day with more renewables available. So, there's something like bringing water up to obviously, there's some infrastructure we have to try to get 6 hours in the day. Is that part of a feasible solution to change that cycle? And get a job or something like that too. So definitely one of the challenges we have both in the members and the infrastructure from groundwater up to PA to the and so now we have recommendations to two locations. And so this one here, I'm looking for is 15 cents a kilowatt hour. And so versus 3.7 cents a kilowatt hour. And so the simplest way to do it is constant because only 2 years and not change the renewal. Talk to staff and things that I've looked at in the process of getting the organization study, but staff are really supposed to be felt to achieve the next thing, achieve that way. I think the next thing, 85% of the technology so it's been a long process of working with it, thinking the kinds of things that needs to be also very concerned about trying to save a few dollars and find yourself in buying the best of the commercial market. To answer your question, that's what you need to do. You want to make use of that energy in real time and not back feed to the pandemic and have it play out where everything is that don't. One person in the commercial organization is very true. It's the only we've done a very good job of taking prices and generating prices this being used. And we still have some respect to the right to mine and get rid of which is about 60 fairly. This is what we're going to Great Plains. West Texas, where it might get a little bit involved in those that's how much you're essentially taking out of it. What we're seeing is a lot of municipalities putting in more resources just to take place because most places are very expensive. And so they're seeing that change locally. And their water utilities are working with this right now. They're making changes now. The sector is but because people look at that closely, they're going to look at these changes as success. Also, that's one of the worst conversations in the so the city, like the other demands, like we know the demand is going to hit as opposed to just keeping the reservoirs full, which my operators like too. Because it's easier and it's easier to think that way. On-time delivery is something that we're looking at now because it's just being able to match the different flows of water and different portfolios. As I talked about before, we're entering into the secondary water supply analysis, but storage becomes the key in that effort. And so you need to be able to take time when you have plenty, you pull it off and save for the times that you don't. And in Mexico, we do a very bad job of that. We wipe our brow when we get a lot, say thank you, and we watch it go down, and then we wish we had some of that in the future. And I've been a big advocate of that. So having the available storage to be able to take that water out when it's available is the key. We'll find that mobilities and other things that play a part in that, but that's the big part of what we're trying to do is increase our storage capacity, be able to have the programming to be able to take off those high supply times and then use those over a period of time. And then also sharing is a big part of what we are talking about. Like Nick and I and City of Santa Fe, the Water Authority, have been talking a lot about working cooperatively as municipalities to try to share in these events where we may have abilities to do something they don't, but we could work together and cooperate together to share that resource. So there are things that we are doing. But I think that's going to be the challenge for us. If we're going to get, some people say we're going to get the 7 mile water, we're just going to get it further in us. So we've got to have that sort of thing to be able to take care of that. Like I said, last year the City of Santa Fe pulled 87% of that team from surface sources. We are saving things in our world for the next year having 40 sources of supply. We are finishing projects now in our reservoirs where we need to take structure and nickels as well. And of course, it's been more likely that we had continuous heat from both of those reservoirs and so those have been taken up with the implementation of this. That's the big part of the heartbeat. Now, can you talk a little bit more about the economics of the Breakout storage system? What I'm interested in is the system responsible enough that you'd be able to get the demand savings as well as energy savings? Typically, the energy savings in the summer, you're talking about the difference in on and off peak. Is that what you're referring to? But maybe you just tell me what are the components of savings. So for the Santa Fe study, we looked at saving money from using less energy on peak and transferring that to off peak time, as well as cutting down the surcharges. And most of the energy is saved from the surcharges right now. That's where you get most of your energy savings from. The difference in cost between on and off peak wasn't enough. The surcharges are the demand charges and the capacity charges. So above a car's unit cost of about 500 kilowatts, they get charged, was it $15 because they had people bills for 5 minutes. So if they lose 50 something, if they hit 15 kilowatts for just 1 second during the month, boom, that's what they get charged for. And then, so what happens with the solar, when you put the solar curve and you subtract it out of your demand curve, you still have beautiful peaks. And that's what we were trying to go after, get those peaks down. And that's what, when I hear we're going to do more solar, it's like, we need to do more storage to keep those peaks down. And it looks like a concentrated waters feel like they incredibly impacted urban soil structure in the future? Probably not. We're struggling just like every utility, and being is no different than we are aware of the cost of running utility, and as conservation is kicked in, our revenues are down. We're per capita goes from $250 per capita per day, and we might be at $125 this year. So we're about 50% less than we were just 20 years ago. And that's great from a water supply perspective, but from a sustainable utility perspective, we have those challenges. So our rate structure is already complicated enough to explain it to some banks to do it in a time of use. Maybe we could go there someday, but I agree with that. So the city of Santa Fe actually, they are not, the city of Santa Fe is rolling out a new metering system to replace over 35,000 meters with a meter that will broadcast the existing cell number once a day, provide really real-time information on an hourly basis, like 90% of how much we're using. So we could, I'm not sure what that value means. We're down to per capita per day. That breakdown easily of 95 gallons per person. And residential is down to about 55 gallons per person. The two-tier structure that we have, we've seen great results. Great compliance from people to lower conservation challenges with these improvements.
Hi, my name is Sandra. I'm with the Regional Coalition of Rural Communities, and we're made up of a group of tribal and elected officials that advocate on behalf of the issues that we're talking about. And one question I did have is who is people who make the decisions that reflect, what goes on in their communities. This is sort of the first time I've heard a really clear, concise description from Dr. Randall about the amount of water consumption needed to power these systems that are pretty much identical in both Albuquerque and Santa Fe is where that power is going. And so when we show different sort of pieces of advocacy for nuclear or continued coal use, etc., saying that exactly with the storage problem, they're saying that's all good and great when you have these renewable possibilities, but storage doesn't exist yet, really. And so we have to rely on these systems to continue to back up everything else. And yet, when we see the water consumption piece, kind of paints a different picture. And so, how can we, as advocates, sort of advocate on behalf of the continued effort in the renewable sector without, sort of understanding that storage piece, and how can we put that together as advocates on behalf of these communities in New Mexico?
That's a great question, and I need an answer. Starts with education, I believe. We have to look at the full picture. It's not just generating emissions, it's the water usage. Water can also a way of getting weighing of the fuel and using the power of grids. That's how, if we're looking at timeframes now that we now have to increase, not just if we're feasibility study over 10 years, but it needs to be over 50 years. That's hard to do. And people believe it. Really believe it. When I do my feasibility studies, I look in the mirror and say, I'm not being honest with myself. I have to, that's not an easy thing with these studies. That's the only way they work, is when you look at the long term, and you're getting those cost benefits, you're getting the benefit of reducing the water use, and not getting the emissions. But it seems like up at Pine River, that people know that, but they don't want to pay for it. And if I put the capacity here, quite frankly, the power plant up in Farmington is up there. That doesn't go for it, does it? Well, of course it does. It's all relationships. So how do I bring more community realizing this is a new economy? How do we bring it together? This is a great fight. batteries to push the light batteries because the light wire lasting. That's what I do. Then I don't think they do have a place that they just don't trouble. So we need to do. I think we need to do something. Maybe this means we need to do something, and then from that we can say there's the benefit, as opposed to just having these discussions. We can't have to do enough to finish our lives. I was just going to mention, we talk about sustainability, the discussion of sustainability has always been around. I think I mentioned that I think sustainability is all that's ahead of this one. I think that we look at that and then do a systems level work. Or second cost sustainability. That can probably next. That's questions like that. The impacts of the adoption of cost and resources. I think that see that concept of the systems level working with sustainability in a broader context, all the natural resources, and look at total life cycle costs, especially in energy and water infrastructure, which are about 50 years to 75 years infrastructures. They'll be a right decision. And if we're looking at that, definitions that they're going to be another 100 years or so before we get to the right side. But because of the kinds of long-term discussions and decisions that we need to go through, so that's what I was some of their carbon consumption. It's amazing. So I just look at these kinds of things that we can do nationwide. It would be great step to start the education process. It seems to me that there is one of the key things for your studies in your utilities, but I think that the difference that we can communicate what you're learning and utilities, we have not the same as the goal that we think that we have to improve the communication between us. Well, obviously we kind of working at different scales, large scale, people have been self to themselves about climate variability with decision making from energy companies and utilities. We've done that before as a response to doing it instead of climate reasons and this will cost you some of the floods and